Hi, this is a presentation video of the paper titled Griffith, a storyboarding tool designed with Japanese animation professionals. As the title suggests, the paper contains a systems contribution that incorporates various knowledge for the storyboarding tool, as demonstrated here. But because of its highly cultural and domain-specific nature, one might wonder how relevant this work is to research in creativity support tools in mainstream HCI. To answer such questions, before I get to the point, I'd like to show some motivational slides and present the result of a preliminary study on the storyboarding process, comparing the Japanese and Western storyboarding processes. Such an analysis then allows us to draw design principles for a storyboarding tool. Finally, we present a storyboarding tool named Griffith. We also touch on the longitudinal study process and qualitative evaluations with professionals, which allows us to discuss generalizable findings to creativity support tools for storytelling applications and beyond. Furthermore, we emphasize the importance of considering cultural perspectives when conducting research to support and create a more diverse landscape of creativity support tools. As you may have heard, the global popularity of Japanese animation, or anime, has grown immensely. With its market size doubling over the past decade and its overseas sales quintupling, its cultural significance is being recognized worldwide. Although, despite its popularity, the anime production process has remained on the fringes of computer science research. The popularity of anime is obviously supported by the visual aesthetics of hand-drawn animation, and even as major Western studios move to 3D computer graphics-based animation, the importance of hand-drawn sketches in animation production remains unchanged. In particular, as shown here, the storyboarding process involves intensive and iterative sketching in both 2D anime and 3D CG animation in general. Thus, we believe that by reporting on and sharing our efforts to innovate the 2D animation production process in the underrepresented non-Western world, we are contributing to a diverse landscape for the future of animation production. This particular paper focuses on E-conte, a term that combines E for illustration and conte for continuity, translated as storyboard in English. An example page taken from an anime film, Starlight Promises, is shown on the right, which contains 5 rows, each of which consists of 5 columns. The first column is used to record the cut number. The second and third columns are used together to hold scene illustrations. The fourth column is for stage directions. The fifth column is for the dialogue and sometimes contains duration of the current cut. Within the page, information flows vertically from top to down, creating a vertical timeline. This makes it easier to compare left-right balance between frames, which is important because balance affects dramatic visual storytelling. Please take out this diagram, which shows a typical anime production pipeline. The E-conte is in the middle of pre-production and production. While pre-production involves about 10 people, production and post-production usually involve over 100. The E-conte is the final output of the pre-production authored by the anime director and storyboard artist, and serves as the guide for animators in production. Since it contains detailed specifications of the anime film, it is referred to as the blueprint of the anime film to be produced. Storyboarding in general is well covered in Chris Pallant and Stephen Price's seminal work, Storyboarding, A Critical History, which states that, unlike live-action films, which often rely on editing after several versions of a scene have been shot, each element in every frame of an animation is drawn intentionally, emphasizing the importance of careful planning in pre-production. Despite these shared characteristics, there are distinct differences between anime and Western storyboarding. Interestingly, the English term storyboard is derived from a wall-mounted board on which pre-production creators paste many illustrations to discuss the storyline, emphasizing the collaborative and open nature of Western storyboarding. In contrast, E-conte authoring is a more personal process that produces a precise, directional document in a standardized format. Authoring an effective E-conte requires a precise and rich imagination to bridge the gap between the abstract specification and the final animated result. To facilitate such a process, the director and storyboarding artist use auxiliary tools in addition to paper and pencil. For example, to help plan timing precisely, a director often places a stopwatch next to the E-conte sheets and uses it to measure time. Storyboarding demands a creativity support environment comprised of multiple creativity support tools rather than a single tool. These findings, based on the analysis of the E-conte medium and the interview with the anime director, informed the design principles for the initial implementation of our E-conte tool called Griffith. First, the system should be designed to support casual and private settings, not limited to a work environment. Second, these interfaces should respect the continuous nature of visual storytelling. Third, the system should include several auxiliary features that support storyboarding authoring, such as the stopwatch tool, that together form a creativity support environment. From now on, we will demonstrate Griffith, a storyboarding tool we developed that follows 3 design principles. First, we implemented Griffith as a web application that works on tablets, PCs, and smartphones. The anime director mentioned that ideas can come at any time, and instant access to E-conte is critical to not forgetting them. A combination of pen and paper in E-conte format naturally provides instant access, and our system must provide a comparable experience. This design choice of web-based implementation is also beneficial for sharing the latest information with others using smartphones, including producers in the pre-production process who want to monitor the progress of E-conte authoring, and animators in the production process who needs to catch up with the latest information. Second, as suggested by the introduction of the vertical timeline in the paper-based E-conte format, we implemented various Griffith user interfaces to take advantage of the vertical timeline. There are 2 primary interfaces for drawing scene illustrations and for viewing outlines, respectively, which will be introduced one by one. This is the main view that allows the user to draw scene illustrations. They are backbone of anime storyboarding. The illustrations convey the visual direction of a specific scene, and the uniqueness is not necessarily in the artistic detail, but in the expressiveness. Directors and storyboard artists have their own style and taste, ranging from simplistic stick figures and abstract symbols to more detailed sketches. Regardless of the style, these illustrations generally embed emotional cues, amplified emotions, and deformations represented through diverse brushstroke width. Informed by the E-conte paper format showcasing continuity by vertically arranging illustrations, our canvas interface also has an optional mode called in-canvas frames to show neighboring frames, just as in the E-conte format. While the director appreciated this feature, the digital canvas can elevate this with the ability to superimpose preceding and succeeding frames using specific transparencies. Our tool also implements this technique known as the onion skin feature, prevalent in animation tools like TV Paint animation. The user can switch between in-canvas frames and onion skin features or turn both off to match their taste. The presence of the red frame in our digital canvas, indicating the final viewing frame for the anime film, does not restrict artists from sketching outside its confines, realizing an infinite canvas. They utilize these margins around the frame for external scribbles and notes to enhance their creativity. The exploratory E-conte authoring process inherently necessitates recurrent reflections on the narratives. Traditionally, directors and storyboard artists often rely on flipping through hundreds of paper sheets to achieve this holistic understanding. Recognizing this, the overview interface is provided that presents a multitude of frames in a single view. Switching from the main view to the overview interface allows the user to check the recent edits in a larger picture, a frequently used strategy of creative professionals known as view shifts. This overview interface is also a good place to implement interframe operations. Tools to support such operations include the split tool to split a cut into multiple cuts, or merge tool to merge existing cuts into a single cut, and finally the discussion tool to initiate discussions about existing frames and cuts. Third, the system incorporates several auxiliary features to support storyboarding. For instance, a stopwatch tool is implemented to operate independently yet can interact with the main view. It exists as the draggable overlay on the main interface, enabling quick time measurement and, if needed, assigning that time to a specific frame. A pre-visualization tool is implemented to bridge the gap between the abstract specification of the E-conte information and the final animation, reducing the user's mental workload. There are more, such as undo and redo tools, script import tool, and conventional E-conte format export tools. And please refer to the paper for more details about these tools. When the main features of Griffith were implemented, we conducted 3 qualitative evaluations. Before introducing them, let me review the process of the longitudinal study. The design principles were derived from the literature review and interviews with the director and producer in 2019. It took some time to prototype a canvas interface that provides an intuitive sketching experience in 2020. We then implemented the main features in 2021, followed by the casual interviews with 5 industry professionals, 3 of whom have storyboarding experience, and the other 2 were producers. Based on the feedback, the additional auxiliary features were implemented in 2022, and the system was thoroughly evaluated by the anime director, who created a storyboard with more than 700 frames of sketches, which is used to record demonstration videos in this talk. As for the advantages of the vertical timeline, we provided the horizontal timeline in the main view for comparison, and the director clearly preferred the vertical timeline. In summary, there are 3 advantages over the horizontal timeline. First, when navigating within the temporal domain with the horizontal timeline, the hand can occlude and thus obscure parts of adjacent frames. Such occlusion disrupts the continuity of perception between frames. This doesn't happen with the vertical timeline. Second, anime films are typically projected on screens in landscape orientation. Since the thumbnails also have the landscape aspect ratio, scrolling in the horizontal timeline takes longer. Third, because of the landscape orientation and the character's actions influenced by gravitational forces, dramatic visual storytelling often relies on positioning within the horizontal axis. Thus, comparing the left-right balance between multiple frames is important, and vertically aligned frames make it easy. The overview interface resulted in a more nuanced evaluation. Unlike the main view, if the screen height is not sufficient to display all frames, which is usually the case, a line break is introduced. Whether to break to the left or right remains a question, as discussed in detail in the paper. Our work is based on the idea of instrumental interaction, where a software tool mediates the relationship between the user and the information object. In a complex system like Griffith, multiple instruments coexist, and we found the stopwatch tool interesting as it realized inter-instrument interaction. The user can use it independently of the other parts of the interface just to measure time. However, they can also link it to the active frame to assign the currently measured time. Our future work would investigate a system architecture that supports such flexible and reprogrammable interactions between instruments. From our casual interviews, we noticed a recurring theme that Griffith was expected to be used by various creators for collaboration. However, when we prototyped a discussion board feature on top of Griffith, we saw a mixed reaction. Traditionally, there are various sensitive exchanges in different stages of anime production, which cannot be fully transparent due to social relationships. Therefore, it is important to consider the social-cultural aspect and balance privacy and convenience. Among some other future technical work for better user experience, our work presents an important goal of the creativity support research community. A highly cultural creative process may seem niche, but they certainly contribute to a rich and diverse landscape of creativity support tools research, sometimes producing generalizable findings such as those on vertical timelines and instrumental interaction. We hope to see more HCI work on anime production, and we need your help. Please contact us if you're interested.